I'm just trying to watch the XFL game, and someone took off his leg. Guess they've got a leg up now.
It'd sure be nice if the Houston Roughnecks could get a leg up or something. Well, let's start with that one. Last game of the season, Houston versus St. Louis. Brandon Silvers has a tricep injury, so Cole McDonald got the start this week. And let's see that offense turn. It looked great against DC. Where's our offense, guys? Hey, 15 for 32. 3.3 yards average per pass. 1 interception. Oh, goodness. We're not a good team, are we? Oh, goodness. 136 yards rushing and passing. It's not worth putting the stats on it. The slide continues. Third game. Defense looked pretty good, but nothing spectacular. St. Louis, on the other hand, well-rounded team. A.J. McCarron had 227 yards passing, 27 for 36 completions. That's pretty good. Only 66 rushing yards. Brian Hill had a more of a volatile game this week. They had 2 sacks, 9 TFLs, which is remarkable, and a turnover. Anthony Becht looking like the greatest head coach of the first-timers compared to, Rod Woodson or Hines Ward, Terrell Buckley or any of those. He's looking great. So, all in all, he's pretty good. Cole McDonald's only had a week to get ready with the wide receivers, and probably less than that. Also, Javante Kirkland, he is out for the season. So, I'm not trying to make excuses, just saying Houston didn't have the best cards dealt this game. All right, next up, we're playing Las Vegas and San Antonio. Jalen McClendon went off on this one. Vegas's third string. Now he got the reins. He had a 68% completion rating on his first game. He had 264 passing yards. He had 90 yards rushing. That was for Las Vegas on the offense. Defensively, they had 4 sacks, 4 TFLs, 3 turnovers. So what happened? What happened to Vegas? How did they just get so good all of a sudden? Well, Rod Woodson took away their music.
In the locker room with the players, it took me 7 weeks to cut the music off in practice. But when I cut the music off, they practiced a lot better. They're a lot crisper. And I told them, I said, don't worry about the music is false energy. You get your energy from inside of yourself.
Yeah, that's right. So, San Antonio, they're looking pretty good, and I'm proud of them. Defensively. Offensively, it's like they're a cup of watered down milk. There's no goodness to it. Kirk Benkert, he went down 3 broken ribs, actually, and then got up and played a little bit more football. He and pass went for 24 and 37, 65% completion rating. But offensively, he only had 211 yards. So 30 of those yards were rushing, and, I think that they need to be a better rushing team, but they've got a bad offensive line. They got pretty beat up early on. So, yeah, it's not looking great for San Antonio. They can still make it to the playoffs if they beat Houston next week, but I doubt that will happen, honestly. Next game, our best game so far, Orlando versus DC. The top team in the league versus the top team being bad in the league. Let's start with DC's stats. 297 yards, 22 for 30, 3 touchdown passes, 195 rushing yards. Defensively, 3 sacks, 9 TFLs, and 2 turnovers. And all of that combined gives you 488 total yards. And Orlando is just not able to stop them. Until when it mattered, Orlando won this game 37-36 or something like that. Maybe it was 36-35. I don't remember quite the exact score, but Orlando won, which breaks their undefeated streak against a team that I thought would absolutely pancake them. I didn't do well on predictions this week. I did not see the DC Orlando. Okay, I saw it coming just because that's just how things work out in the NFL. Just this garbage team beats, the best team just out of the blue. But I just didn't think that was going to happen in the XFL, but it is the XFL at the end of the day. Anything can happen. So, all in all, I was a little bit disappointed on that. I was also wrong about the Houston versus St. Louis. Finally, we had the first game that was played, Arlington versus Seattle. It's more of the same old. Arlington just looks absolutely helpless on offense. They just picked up Luis Perez, but he would have only had 3 days to learn the offense. Drew Plitt looked to have a better congealing team on his side, and they weren't up against a great defense either, so I'm not going to give Arlington too many, they've turned a corner, because I don't think they have. Seattle, more of the same. Ben DiNucci will look like he's like stinking Tom Brady with these precise throws, and then, the next play he throws just this awful interception, so nothing crazy there. Defense on Arlington, more of the same, nothing crazy, but they did okay, and then Seattle, more of the same, not too many bougie stats or anything, but they came up with a lot of stats there. So, let's go over the power rankings. Number 1, it's easy. It's DC. Even with that loss to Orlando, I'm not going to put Orlando up too far. Now, I'm not going to stick Orlando at number 1 for DC losing one game. Number 2, I've got St. Louis. I think St. Louis still looks good. Number 3, Seattle. I might be ready to move Seattle up. If they beat DC next week, I'm ready to move Seattle up to number 1, or maybe number 2. But I think they have all the room in the world to grow. Number 4, I have Houston. It's a banged up unit right now, which, there's no excuse for losing, but it's still a banged up unit. Number 5, I have Dallas. You've won, but not well. Number 6, I've got Las Vegas. Number 7, I've got Orlando. And then number 8, I've got San Antonio. Now, the reason I've got San Antonio where I have them at number 8 is just because Orlando seems to have a working offense. And San Antonio does not have a working offense. So if it's up against, Orlando's offense versus San Antonio's defense, I think Orlando has the pieces that are able to put together winning drives. So that's why I have them over San Antonio. Going into the predictions for next week, DC is playing Seattle. As I already said this, I don't think DC is going to start a skid. And I see more of just Seattle looking mediocre. High-powered offense rushing. Rushing is left a little bit to be desired, but they run the air raid offense underneath June Jones. They did just pick up Philip Lindsay. He was a former Broncos Pro Bowler guy. Some of y'all probably heard him. Here's a picture of him. So I think they've got the ability to beat DC, but I just don't feel it. DC's played pretty well in opposing territory, other than that one Orlando game. But other than that, I'm confident in DC winning that game. Next up, we have Dallas versus Orlando. I've got Orlando winning this one, and that's just because Orlando seems to have a better offense. Now, if Dallas offense takes bigger strides than what they have, Dallas is going to win. But Orlando's offense seems to be high-powered enough. They beat DC, which has had just an absolutely brutal defense against opposing teams. So, I think their offense is well more than capable, and there's actually a possibility that they make the playoffs after they beat DC. I don't think it's going to happen, though, but I'm going to predict them to beat Dallas just because of Dallas's lack of offense. San Antonio versus Houston. Going Houston. Houston, even though it doesn't have a great-looking offense, I think there's enough of an offense there to help it get the run game moving a little bit more. Maybe try trading for somebody big, like maybe Jacquez Patrick. I think if you got a bigger running back in there, that'll help you out a lot in the run game. And then maybe evenly. So I've got St. Louis versus Vegas. This is St. Louis's game to win. Easy peasy there. They've just looked great so far and well-rounded offense. Vegas hasn't looked great, but they played well against San Antonio, but then again, San Antonio was making you question. It's like, can Las Vegas actually do this? Las Vegas, in fact, could not. So all in all, I've got St. Louis winning that one just because they've got a more consistent, better coached team. But that's all I have for you today. I actually have an idea for a football video game video. So drop a comment below if you'd be interested in that, and I'll be able to do like USFL versus XFL. But I'll be putting out a video with that. But I love you. See you later.